Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. This is episode 68. I hope everyone is having a great week. Almost Friday. Not a lot going on in sports right now. It's a very dry time for sports. Baseball, hockey finished up, NBA finished up, Summer League just finished, but that's not the point. Tonight's guest on tonight's show is Alex Martin, a very dear friend of mine who is a sports reporter in Southwest Florida. To get all your Southwest Florida sports news, this is the guy. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, NP_Alex Martin. Alex, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight's show.
Awesome. Great to be here. It's, been listening to the pod lately, and, it's just fun to talk sports and everything. I don't get a lot of chances to do stuff like this. So it's always fun to just be able to catch up and, be able to share my story a little bit.
Yeah, most definitely. So I really want to introduce you. You've had bylines in the Washington Post, the Miami Herald, the Orlando Sentinel, Naples Daily News, Naples News Press. So before we do get into the show and kind of, hear more about your background and what you do in your daily life, how have you been? How was Key West? I know you're very busy. You're traveling a lot. You're breaking stories like crazy. So how have you been?
Yeah, Key West is good. Let's just say it did a number on me. There's stuff that, happened down there that it's obviously not going to be talked about on pod. But it was good. A great, R&R type trip just to, get away one more time before, this all kicks back up again in August for us here. And, that's basically my last trip before, it's going to get back in full swing. And, it kind of already is. The second half of July is when, we really start looking ahead to the fall and planning and all this sorts of stuff that we do behind the scenes. But yeah, Key West is good. Went down there with a friend and his fiance and then two other buddies. So it was the five of us just really taking in the weather down there, enjoying it, and, just spending a long weekend down in the Keys.
Most definitely. So I'm a big food guy. I love to explore new food places all the time. What was a food spot that you tried in Key West that you have never had before, or something you can put on the map for people when this gets out to social media? So throw a place out there.
Yeah, there were some places. Obviously, if you go down to Key West, the place to go is Sloppy Joe's. It always has been, it always will be. Right on the heart of Duval Street, right in the kind of the thick of things. That was some good food. We also checked out Fogarty's, not far, still on Duval Street, but another good spot. And then Two Friends, which isn't that far away either. So there's some good little joints there that were good. We didn't come across like a bad place where we're like, oh, we're not going to go back there again, or we wouldn't go back there.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of unique in its own way. The food was good. The vibes were pretty much immaculate, and it was just all in all a fun time. And the food, it was good, man. Conch fritters are good.
For sure. I'm glad you had a great downtime in Key West, little downtime for you, enjoying the time with some friends, getting to see the beautiful weather down there. It is very hot in Florida right now, but still always a great time to be down in Key West, little vacation there for you. So I want to get into the show. I want to start off by asking you, what is your daily life as a sports reporter working for the Naples Daily News, working for the Naples News Press, because you break so many stories, whether it's in Southwest Florida or another story comes in from Texas or California or New York. How does that work for you and your daily life?
Look, it's honestly pretty interesting because, some people think I work a 9 to 5. In some cases, that is true. Sometimes I'm busy from 9 to 5 doing pre-planned stuff. But when it's slow for us, it's basically an on-call type thing. So I might be just around the house doing nothing if I know that there's not much going on, and then something breaks at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and it's like you're on it, just like that. And that's one of the things. It often gets looked at as, you're working pretty much 8 hours a day. That's not the case a lot of the time. And, sometimes I'm working on my own schedule. Some days I'm not even working, and I'm just putting my work off until 10 o'clock at night, in part intentionally, because that's when I operate better under planned circumstances, doing features, doing lists, those types of things. So sometimes I'll work late just because I feel like I put out better content when I'm just basically by myself. But yeah, it really is interesting because we're all different. There's coworkers of mine that have different preferences and how when they get their stuff done and how they go about their own business. So it really, it can vary from reporter to reporter. Not every department could get away with what I'm doing. Obviously, breaking news, that's obviously a non-starter. You can't just sit on things until 10 o'clock at night and then do them. It's, you're on it with the snap of a finger, basically. But, it just depends really on the reporter. Right now during the summer, that's kind of where it applies most. Football is kind of a set schedule. Early on in the week, you have to have stuff done by Wednesday. And our podcast has to be up by Wednesday. But Thursday, Friday, Friday, you're not working until 5 o'clock. Friday, you're not doing anything during the day unless if something really serious warrants, you working before that. So it's basically, it's for the most part, it's a set schedule during the fall, but it really is, it can vary from week to week.
I'm so glad you brought that up and you mentioned that kind of your daily life and what really goes into it. But how do you find your balance as a sports reporter, but also living your life as a young individual in Florida who just graduated not too long ago from FGCU, but just finding that balance? Like, how do you find that as an individual in this world? Because sports can be so toxic, can very, take a toll on your life so you don't burn out. So like, how do you balance in between sports and your personal life?
Yeah, it really is a good question. I don't know how I do it, quite frankly. There are times where I question myself and how am I doing this?
Yeah.
But it's all about having a balance, and that includes playing pickleball with friends or doing just walking around the neighborhood or going to a park and just walking around and just basically reflecting and
Yeah.
just kind of not doing much of anything. You're just kind of just looking around, listening to music. Just a lot of that sort of stuff it really helps. Reflection matters and just thinking about things. And that's really how I get by in my daily life. And, not the same for everybody. I'm obviously a little different than the average person and whatnot. So maybe, they won't be able to relate to this as much, but, that's just some of the things that help me get by. And it really is healthy. Going out on the weekends helps too, just because you are looking forward to the weekend at the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty relatable for all of
Yeah.
us our age. You look forward to the weekend on Monday and Tuesday and all that sort of stuff. But I love it. I love my job. I've been in it for 4.5 years now. It's crazy to think that, but
Yeah.
maintaining the balance has been huge. I'd be remiss to say if I didn't burn out because I have before. And that's something that's happened in the past. And, with that comes, some days off and taking time, PTO. And, I have the luxury of having a pretty good, benefits on all that stuff. So, taking PTO matters, man. It really does. And, it just helps me get my mind cleared out. And, especially there's times where with winter sports overlap and spring sports overlap, there's the seasons overlap here and there. And that's when it's really hectic for us.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it's so important for people our age, especially just graduating college, young professionals finding their way in this world to find that healthy balance in their life because you want to be the guy at work, you want to be the corporate rat, or you working for this company and you're trying to be, the guy or the girl, you're just trying to be the it person. I want to say later, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you also have to find a healthy balance in between because you're going to burn yourself out. You're only one person. I try to tell people this on a daily basis. They ask me questions, they ask for advice. I'm like, we're just this little microscopic thing on earth. We're just, floating around. We're doing our thing. You can only do so much. We're just this little microscopic thing. It takes time. Don't beat yourself up. Try to stay humble. Try to, stay the course. Look in front of you. Don't look on the side. Don't look left. Don't look right. Just keep going in front of you. Burning out, it's a thing. It's a real thing. People don't understand that. And I really, really think about that throughout my daily life because we do so many different things. You work in sports, you're around it so much. You're tweeting, you're making stories, you're breaking headlines. People don't really realize that. They think it's just, oh, you're tweeting, or no, there's so much more that goes into it. And everyone has a different story, but I really appreciate you saying that because it's so easy to burn out these days. life is life,
Yeah.
man. There's going to be so many obstacles and things that hit you in so many different directions, but it's just having a clear head, knowing what's in front of you. And I remember I made the clip actually recently last week about focusing on the present and stop focusing so much on
Yep.
the past. Kind of like what you said. I'm not worried about, the story I broke last week. If it wasn't the best story that I focused on, I want to make the next one
Yep.
better. Don't beat yourself up, So
Exactly.
I'm glad you shared that too. So yeah.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, there's sacrifices that have to be made, and I hate
Yeah.
admitting this publicly, but there's some people that have been in my life for a while that have kind of faded out of it, and that's
Yeah.
just the way stuff is sometimes. And it's just, at the end of the day, your income matters more, I think, than your social life, because you're always going to be around people,
Yeah.
regardless of what you're in. You're always going to be around people who, whether it's coworkers, whether it's close friends, you're going to have one or the other or both. And that's kind of where I'm at. I've had this, I just haven't talked to some close friends in a while that were close 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's more so like, that they kind of know what I'm doing
Right.
on a day-to-day basis, and some of them understand, some of them don't, and that's completely fine. But sacrifices have had to be made over the last 5, 6 years. But that comes with us being teens and getting
Yep.
into our 20s and whatnot. It's just, I think it's a part of everybody's life, and whether or not they realize it, that's one thing, but I think it exists for all of us at some point.
Alex, I think you can definitely relate to this one here. Stop caring what other people think of you. Stop
Yep.
focusing on what's going on over there,
Yep.
or what's going on here. It goes back to what I was just saying, the left and the right. Stop focusing so much on everyone else, what they think of you. It doesn't matter. What you're doing makes you happy. You post your tweets, you post your Instagram stuff. That's what makes you happy. You're not posting irrational stuff. You're doing your job. You're doing what you love. And I think the more you do that, the more people will see, really, man, this person is super passionate about what they do. Yeah, they may post
Yeah.
a lot. And yeah, I guess I can, fall for this one here, but you tweet so much and that's your job, but
Yep.
that's
My
what
job.
makes you, it makes you unique. NP_Alex Martin, a little Twitter plug there. But no, the point is do what makes you happy and everything else will fall into place. It may take time. It's going to take time. It's not going to come overnight. I try to tell people this too. I actually had a person ask me at work, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing in my daily life. I'm trying to figure everything out. I'm trying to become a better person. I'm like, one day at a time. You can only do so much. It's just, we're just simple human beings, So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that, because it's super important. And you're gonna lose friends. The more you get into your craft, the more you get into your profession, those people, they're not your true friends. They're not. They don't really. There's only a few people I think you can really count on in life. Whether it's your parents, of course, they're going to be your backbone if you have a good relationship with them. And secondly, you may have one or two close friends, and the person that you confide in that is your best friend would probably be your best man at your wedding, or shit, I'm drawing a blank for girls for what is it, bride, not bridesmaid, best, no, it's not best
Groomsmen.
woman, groom, yeah, but I'm drawing a
Oh,
blank. But anyways, the point is
yeah.
people that are in your life are the important ones that you can really count on. There may be one or two people, and that's about it. But like you said, your circle gets smaller and smaller as you get older, and you really kind of summed it up there.
Yeah, and you brought up something great. In high school, I used to be very conscious of what people thought of me. Now I could care less. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
I've grown into that mold where I don't care what people think of me.
No.
Because I'm such a public figure. There's so many people that have an opinion on me now, good or bad. That's fine. They're entitled to that. But
Yep.
you just gotta learn to stop caring at some point, because
Yep.
there's always going to be people on one side of the coin. There's going to be people on the other side of the coin, whether it's the good side or the bad side. That's just the way it is now. And I've just learned, like, you don't have to care what every single last person thinks of you. Like, it doesn't matter what it just doesn't matter, man. And that's something that I've really adopted over these last couple of years since getting out of high school and getting into college and all that stuff.
I think there's only so much time in a day, because most people work 8 hours.
Yeah.
You work, let's say 9 to 5. You have your beginning time before you start work, and you have your after time. You have your downtime, like you said, whether you want to go on a walk, whether you want to go to the gym, whether you just want to binge at Netflix, hey, maybe watch, quarterback on Netflix, but we're going to get into that. But no, I think so many people forget that there is that healthy balance, and I just think it's super important to really take that time. And I respect more people that post their craft and are passionate about what they're trying to do, because then I really like that person. I may swipe up on their story, or I may send them a message and go, man, I love what you're doing. I may not really know that person that well. There's people on Instagram that I've never met in my life, but I hype them up just in their
Yeah.
comment section from people that I've talked to throughout Instagram, and I'm happy for them. They're posting their brand deals, they're posting this. And yeah, okay, you could say that's networking, but I'm also trying to spread positivity in their life. Just like you, I throw a comment on your story or your Instagram post. I don't talk to you every single day, but I respect with what you're doing in your daily life, because I know you're busy as hell. I know what your purpose is. I know what you're trying to do. And I think that's what makes it so important. We're not going to talk every single day. I think, like, as you said, as we get older, it's just the way it is. It's the way of life. It's the way the cookie crumbles,
Yeah, without a doubt. No, I couldn't agree more with that.
So I do want to ask you this. What kind of advice do you have for anybody, wanting to work in the sports business, as sports marketing, sports media, maybe as a sports reporter? Like, what kind of advice would you have? Because it's not an easy business to get into. And you've seen recently where I feel like, and you may have a different opinion on this, but I feel like sports media is going into clips and short form and short film. A lot of the story breaking is not as much as it used to be. I feel like it's taken a toll, and it's, slipping down the slide as faster than we can think, because of, print, I feel like, is going out the window, and it's more short form. You see a lot of TikTok, you see a lot of Twitter. So what are your thoughts, on that, at least?
Yeah, and I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, because ESPN just had massive layoffs with Jalen Rose, Jeff Van Gundy,
Yeah.
Susie Colbert, a lot of prominent personalities on ESPN got let go, and that's kind of where we go to for news.
Yeah.
More often than not, we go to ESPN and all that stuff, and the Athletic, which the Athletics kind of going through some stuff with the New York Times, and they're facing cuts too. As someone who kind of got into this industry in a very unorthodox way, I think, you have to adapt. And the number one piece of advice I've always given to a prospective journalist, whether it's in sports or elsewhere, is adapt or die. Today's day and age, you are going to have to adapt to the times. You're going to have to get acclimated with change frequently, or you're just not going to last, and you're going to be searching for a new career after 2 or 3 years. It really, when you're working in a business like the newspaper industry and journalism and whatnot, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, structurally, company structure, all that stuff. And I've seen it firsthand, having been at the paper for 4.5 years, just with the way things have changed at Gannett, structurally from top down, with the merger we had back in 2019 or 2020. A lot has gone down. But the number one piece of advice I would give, is adapt or die, because I've had to adapt so many different ways to keep up. Some of it overwhelming, some of it not. It's nothing like, not every instance or situation is crazy. It's just basically OJT in a sense, on the job training, and just kind of getting acclimated to new things, which is completely fine. I mean, I think working in an industry, you always want to be learning. You always want to be learning new things to perfect your craft and all those, all the things around it. But that's probably the piece of advice I would give.
No, I like that a lot. And my next question for you is what is the biggest story that you've ever broken? Because there's been a lot of Southwest Florida news. I mean, we've had a lot of notable, athletes from there, and baseball is starting to really pick up. I mean, in previous years, Verow is very good at baseball, but I see your Twitter, I saw your Twitter, and a lot of stories have broken. And there's been a lot of players that have come out of Southwest Florida. I mean, some notable names we know of Dion, Sammy Watkins, Noel Devine. He had a very, short window in the NFL. We had Devin Moore from Naples, who you covered briefly. There's been a lot of players. So what has been your biggest story that you've ever broken, or something you've been around that you're just like, wow?
This is a tough one. But if I had to pick one, it's because I was the one who got the scoop, and I was the one who got the exclusive with it. Obviously Dion gets hired by Colorado back in, I think it was December, maybe November, one or the other. He was hired at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And obviously, Deion's got local ties here and everything. And so we're kind of keeping an eye on, is anybody locally, who knows him, going to be on the move with him?
Yep.
Sure enough, I get a call. I think it was the day after Christmas, I think, from James Chaney, the former head coach at Lehigh.
Yes.
And he tells me, I'm out in Boulder now. And I'm like, okay. Like this is, it's obviously when Deion was hired, there was a lot of hype around it. And there was a lot of media coverage around it because he just got his first Power 5 coaching gig and everything. And kind of sitting on that story, I think I sat on it for a day and then went to work. I kind of let, the holiday get by. And then I broke that story, kind of just being able to have that scoop. I'd probably say that was my biggest breaking news story. There was obviously another one kind of happened last year. It was regarding a baseball coach getting fired for a lot of interesting things. Whether he should have been let go or not, that's up for debate, and it probably still will be to this day. But, picking one, I think just because of the exclusivity of it, me breaking it as a new coach on Deion's staff and being a longtime personal friend and teammate of his, I think that was probably the one that's going to stick with me for a while.
So when Chaney called you on the phone, you held that story for a day to yourself?
I held it. I told my boss about it, and we made the decision. Look, it's the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Let people enjoy the holiday, basically, and then let's break it the next day. So I think I want to say we broke it on the 27th. My timeline is, not the best, so my dates might be wrong, but I know I sat on it for a day and didn't type anything on it or didn't break it that day. But obviously, that formula doesn't work, at the higher levels and whatnot. You could be sitting in bed at 11 o'clock and Woj gets a text from somebody saying, Dame's going to the Heat or something like that.
Right.
But so I sat on it for a day, and page view wise, it was a very popular story. People were very interested in Colorado at the time just because of Deion and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's the one, that'll stick with me, at least for now, until the next story breaks, obviously.
Yeah, so I remember last year on National Signing Day, if I'm correct, you were there when Devin Moore committed to Florida. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I was there. It was Notre Dame and Florida at that point. Yeah.
And Billy Napier was there. Nick Saban was there. Dabo Swinney was there, correct?
So what happened there? You're talking about two different players. Devin Moore, his decision was between Florida and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then Richard Young had this whole frenzy of coaches come in.
Yeah.
Ryan Day and Saban came in the day before we were there. We saw Dabo, Napier, and Kirby Smart from Georgia. So we kind of got video and footage of them checking out Lehigh. We got photos. Some pretty good ones from our photographer, Andrew West. And so, that was kind of a pretty hectic day. I've never been a part of something like that. And we never really, we don't get tipped on things like that. But, when I got told that a helicopter was coming in, I'm like, yeah, this is probably something we should be at. If they're hinting to us that there's going to be a helicopter, like, there's nothing saying that we can't be there. So, we got a photographer and me, and, it's kind of crazy because I think it was before everybody kind of came through, we got into the room where Chaney and Richard and all them were. And I actually did my interviews right then and there before all the coaches came through and all that. So that was definitely one of the more unique days that I've kind of been a part of. But Devin Moore, that was signing day 2021. This would have been December of 21.
Yeah.
And, I had to pre-write two different stories, basically. So we had something up right when he put the hat on. So I have my
Wow.
Notre Dame story. I have my Notre Dame story ready, and I have my Florida story ready. And then once I texted my boss saying Florida, that thing went up immediately. I updated it with quotes afterwards, and we went about our business there. So, that's the type of stuff that we talk about that we do behind the scenes. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I have pre-written in our system that may never see the light of day, but
Right.
it's stuff that has to be considered, obviously.
It's like it's like Lil Uzi when he said he has so many albums and songs in the archives. Like all these artists say, I have so many songs in the archives. It's like you have so many stories in the archives that you don't know if you're gonna post or not. And you're like, I want to post
Exactly.
this, but it's not gonna happen. Or, oh, this guy's going there. No, he's not. I can't post it.
Yeah,
That's funny.
exactly.
Yeah. So my last question for you is before we get into the next part of the show, where do you see Southwest Florida sports going in the next few years? Is it trending up, or is it staying where it is, or do you think it's trending down, or what are your thoughts on the whole Southwest Florida sports community as a whole?
I think it's definitely in a position on the upward trajectory just because of the number of people that continue to move here and whatnot. It's had population growth since the foreclosure crisis. It's had pretty steady growth, not a lot of drop off. I think we're going to probably be up to 1 million people by the end of the decade, maybe.
Yeah.
Just in Lee County, I know in the Southwest Florida area, we've already eclipsed that number. But with more people comes, more families, more kids. The world's just going to keep, increasing population wise. Florida is going to keep growing, I imagine. But at the end of the day, you got to compete with the big metros, and to say Fort Myers and Naples is growing. I mean, same thing with Tampa, same thing with Lauderdale, same thing with Miami, same thing with Palm Beach. But I definitely would say, over the years that the talent gap has shrunk a little bit. I think it's definitely kind of getting closer, but it's still, in favor of the big metros and whatnot. But I've seen on multiple occasions that progress has been made. Specifically, I think Naples baseball this past year would be a great example. They have the luxury of having a pretty talented left-handed pitcher by the name of Johnny King, who, he faced Stoneman Douglas, who, if high school baseball they're the program in Florida. I forget IMG, but Stoneman is the real deal.
Yeah.
And he struck out 10 guys over 4 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 2
Wow.
walks. And to do that against a program like that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And they only lost, I think it was 2-0. When Stoneman was blowing out teams left and right, I think they mercy ruled their opponent in the state title game. But multiple occasions, baseball, it's never really been, an issue with the talent gap. Baseball is one of the rare exceptions. Softball, yeah, I guess. Volleyball, I think it just depends on who you're playing. There's some schools around here that can compete statewide, and Seacrest Country Day and Barron Collier this past season could compete with anybody across the state, I think, as well as Canterbury. But it honestly depends on sport by sport. I think you kind of see it exploited a little bit in basketball, in football in some areas. But I think as a whole, when you look at just high school sports in general, I think it's closer than what a lot of people may think.
No, I agree. And I think it is trending upwards after what you just had to say, especially baseball. I feel like there's a lot of players coming out of Southwest Florida, especially. A lot of these private schools are recruiting these players. And like you said, IMG has been, the juggernaut for years, but it seems like a lot of these smaller private schools are making waves and they're making a name for themselves, especially with what they have to offer in the state of Florida, their campus, what else, So I think that's a good way to end that part of the show. So the next part of the show, NFL, NBA, and MLB. Nothing really going on in college football other than Caleb Williams, if you want, but there's not a whole lot going on in college football. I mean, Lane Kiffin got mad about NIL, and not a whole lot going on in college football from what I've seen. It's very dry right now, but next month we do have some college football. So I did want to talk about the NFL running backs. What the hell is going on with this running back thing? It blows my mind, because actually a few months ago when I was recording an episode of the pod, we were talking, Max Adams and I, Max Adams, we were talking about running backs, and we had two different opinions. He said running backs should not be paid. I said running back should be, but I think there's a middle ground there. I think I hate bringing up politics, but I think, Republicans and Democrats, they have their own things. I don't like this, I don't like that, but middle ground, you got to meet in the middle somewhere, especially for the Giants with Saquon Barkley. I don't think the Giants would be relevant if Saquon Barkley wasn't on the Giants. If they would just had another also ran running back, like if they want to go into this season with this random running back room, they drafted Eric Gray out of Oklahoma. I don't even know who else they have. I don't even know if they still have Matt Breida. It doesn't even matter. The point is you have to pay Saquon Barkley. You got to come to some sort of agreement. I know the new GM and Joe Shane is trying to play hardball here, and the new coach Dable, they're trying to play hardball, but I think they're a 6-7 win team without Saquon Barkley. Am I wrong? Am I missing something? Because I just really think the Giants need to come to some sort of agreement, because it just seems like Saquon potentially will hold out.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's funny you mentioned Max Adams. I actually saw him this past weekend in Key West. Shout out
that's
to
my
Max,
guy, right? That's my guy right there, man. I always had to show love with my boy Max.
But yeah, get into the Saquon question. I think, I have my personal list of running backs that I would pay right now and which ones I'd let walk. That list is going to be different for everybody. But Saquon, you have to pay Saquon, especially after the year the Giants just had in Brian Daboll's first year. Making the postseason. I think they posted double-digit wins, if I'm not mistaken. And for New York sports fans, that's a borderline miracle that the Giants posted 10 or more wins in a season and all that. But Saquon holding out, I mean, that's also a tactic on his part. Like, makes the front office jump a little bit. Like, look, if he sits out, then we might become irrelevant again. And, do I think he would sit out? I mean, I'm leaning towards no, but yet again, I don't think any of us expected Le'Veon Bell to do the same thing when he did. And I think that was 5 years ago. And Le'Veon Bell was really good up until that point. And, maybe the Steelers saw something that we didn't, but obviously he kind of faded off, not really making many waves after going to the Jets. But at the end of the day, Saquon is on my list of running backs that I would pay. And however much that is, he's an integral part of the franchise for them moving forward. He's the guy. He's the face of the Giants. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial there. And I think I think it would just look bad, for the fans in New York and in the Meadowlands, and for them to not see 26 on the field on Sundays.
No, and it's a good point, because the Giants ownership, their franchise, they have so much money, and they're a team that's able to make this work. This is a guy that you drafted as your, future back. And I get it. The market is different, and with the way the NFL is going now with the star, studded positions, you want to pay a defensive end, you want to pay a corner, wide receivers getting up there as well. They're very expensive. I feel like it was a slap in the face to Saquon Barkley to pay Daniel Jones over him, because Saquon is such a dynamic running back. He makes everything go for you. I really don't see the Giants offense being the same without him. Now, I have a really close friend of mine who is a big Giants fan, and he doesn't want to pay Saquon, but sometimes you have to bite the bullet. I mean, I really think Saquon Barkley is a top 3 running back in the NFL. Now you got Chubb, you got McCaffrey. Derrick Henry seems like he's slowly declining. He's getting older. I mean, they're giving him 300 carries a year. I don't see why Saquon Barkley, they got to come to some sort of agreement. And like you said, I think he's potentially going to hold out. He's going to stand his ground. But, the longer he does that, the more likely he becomes irrelevant.
And look, I mean, Saquon was drafted not that long ago. It was 2018, 2019. Like, he hasn't even been in the league for 6 years yet. And I think this would be his 6th year. And granted, he's had his share of injuries. I probably agree with Max on the point that running backs are replaceable. but we're nowhere near having that conversation with Saquon Barkley yet. I mean, he's coming off a strong year
Right.
where he led the Giants to the playoffs. He did all these sorts of dynamic things that we saw at Penn State and that we saw in his first couple of years in the league. But he's not anywhere near the point where we need to talk about replacing him like Zeke Elliott, for example, who has, I think we can both agree, not fallen off a cliff, but
Right.
production has gone down and he's just turned into a running back that just doesn't seem to fit the mold anymore of where the game is. But Saquon is just, he's kind of in a league of his own in terms of what he brings to the table. Especially pass catching and carrying. I think there's only really one or two guys that you can throw in that conversation with him, and that would be Christian McCaffrey, obviously, and Tony Pollard, who I still think is underappreciated as a running back to this day. I was surprised that he didn't start over Zeke earlier on last year than he did.
And the Giants, excuse me, and the Cowboys didn't pay Tony Pollard. They franchise tagged him. So that's another thing as well. But going back to my point here, Austin Eckler has been wanting to know why running backs haven't been getting paid. And I get it. He's a very smart guy. I've listened to him and what he's had to say. But hate to break it to you, man, but Saquon Barkley's 10 times better than you. And I know Austin Eckler is a great running back and he's had a lot of success in the NFL, but I think 32 GMs would much rather have Saquon Barkley over Austin Eckler any day of the week. He's more dynamic. He's a better running back all around. I think he fits into a lot more systems and a lot more teams than Saquon Barkley, I think, is much better than Austin Eckler. But countering that point there, the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with Isaiah Pacheco when they drafted him in the 7th round from Rutgers. So running backs just seem so interchangeable. It's just a hard argument. It's an ongoing debate. And I think it's going to continue and it's going to ramp up. And it's so funny because you backtrack a few months ago, we were having this conversation about Saquon Barkley and if the Giants were going to pay him and if Miles Sanders should get paid and this running back and that, and Josh Jacobs is holding out now. So I just think this is the way the NFL it's going. And I don't think it's going to stop here. It's almost like they're protesting and they're not going to stop until they come to a middle ground or they get what they want. And I think the Giants will, come to an agreement. I think they will pay him. I don't think they want to play hardball with a guy like this, especially a star on your team. The Giants, I really don't think they can afford to lose this guy. I really don't. I don't think they can afford to lose Saquon Barkley. They don't have somebody else behind them that can, replace him. So I hope that wasn't too much about Saquon, but I'm just fired up about it, man, because it drives me crazy. This running back debate ongoing right now is crazy. Even Christian McCaffrey even said it. He's making $16 million. So I don't think it's stopping anytime soon.
As a fantasy football GM, I will disagree with you and say that I'd take Austin Eckler over Saquon Barkley any day of the week, having lived in PPR leagues over the last 5-6 years now, since my senior year of high school and everything. But from a value standpoint, I'm going to take the younger guy over the guy who's in his 30s. Eckler, I think, he's limited in what he can do. I think we saw last year that he can't really run in between the tackles as effectively as he could, in previous years. He's just a better pass catcher. In that offense, Herbert set him up for success in some areas, specifically as a pass catcher. But, when you need a guy to run in between the tackles and to kind of break one off, you're looking at a guy like Saquon or Nick Chubb, or, I'd say a healthy Jonathan Taylor, quite frankly. I don't think his 2021 season was a one-off. I think it was, I think he's going to get back to form this year. But, Austin Eckler, kind of wondering, dude, you're kind of on the back end. You don't have much time left. And, someone who's, I think, is really similar to him as a running back is, you mentioned the Chiefs, a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who we were just salivating at the prospect of coming out of LSU. Look, this dude could be Darren Sproles, and he can do both and everything. And, at the end of this year, he's what, the number 3?
He hasn't really lived up to much. Yeah, you're right.
It's what, Pacheco, McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Running backs are interchangeable, but I don't think you want to take that risk on a guy like Saquon. I think both agree.
Last point here, though, about Saquon Barkley. I think he is a generational type running back. Now, some people may call me crazy there. I mean, the Patriots all those years, they didn't pay, running backs, but Saquon Barkley is a different type of back, man. He's not just some guy you just throw away and he's easily replaceable. He's not a player like that. He's like losing a cornerstone of your franchise. I really think Saquon's a very dynamic part of the Giants offense, and people may have other opinions about it, but somehow they're going to have to come to an agreement. So next part of the NFL I want to talk about was DeAndre Hopkins. He recently signed with the Tennessee Titans on a 2-year, $26 million deal, up to $32 million in incentives. And it's been really getting to me. I posted a couple clips about it. And for me, I wish he would have just been honest with himself. His quote unquote standards, what he was looking for: a stable quarterback, stable management, because he's had 4 GMs in his career, a good defense, because defense wins championships according to him. Now I get that, but the Titans, out of all teams, and he's made $111 million in his career earnings wise, and he's played in Arizona and Texas, 2 states that are very well put together for state income tax. And Tennessee, no state income tax there. And he's avoided California and New York and a lot of other big states that are, heavily on taxes. And to go to the Titans on the back end of your career, like you were once sought after as the best receiver in the NFL, and you want to go to the Titans with a stable quarterback as in Ryan Tannehill, and he just drafted his replacement in Will Levis, and they just drafted Malik Willis last year. So that really doesn't make any sense there. I think some of it was spite to the Patriots. They probably lowballed them. We're probably not going to hear that offer because Belichick's, and co. And Belichick as the GM doesn't like to, spill the beans there. And, that's very obvious what we've seen with the Patriots in the years past, and they don't like to pay a lot of receivers. But my point here is I don't think he had a big market. And
no,
I really think that the Titans, I think it really came down to the Titans and the Patriots. But if I were him, I would have tried to go to the Chiefs or the Bills, especially in this state of the NFL. Go try to win a ring. You've already made your money. You're older now. Go cement your legacy as a, top receiver of all time. He's, probably a Hall of Famer, but even solidify his case even more to get that championship with the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, they're the juggernaut of the AFC. Bengals fans will have something else to say about that, but I really think that Hopkins made a mistake. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, I mean, I think, the whole suspension thing definitely crossed a good number of teams crossed him off the list and said, look, we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to invest that money again. We don't want to invest that money in a guy like that, even though, he was an elite receiver at one point and all that. But I think Tennessee, I'm kind of with you. I think there weren't many teams out there that were willing to extend a contract offer. Belichick's been known, and the Patriots have been known for kind of trying to give guys a second chance, i.e. Antonio Brown. We saw that experiment lasted for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
But, I think DeAndre Hopkins probably was going to Tennessee thinking that he could be a guy like A.J. Brown who, as much as we shit on Tennessee and wonder why receivers want to go there, A.J. Brown had a fairly respectable career in Tennessee before he got traded to Philly. I don't know what D-Hop's thinking, though, in terms of the stable quarterback situation, because I think, every analyst in the country is expecting that Ryan Tannehill is going to be on a short leash this year, and Vrabel and them, won't be afraid to go to a guy like Will Levis early. But 2 years, $26 million. I think this is probably gonna be the last contract he gets, other than the one-day contract if he wants to retire as a Texan or do any sort of that fanfare with a team that he was fond for. But I'm with you. I just don't. I don't really understand why. You opt to go to Tennessee, because I think you kind of compare him. He thinks he can be A.J. Brown, but I think in reality, we're kind of looking at him as Julio Jones, a guy who only caught 1 touchdown pass with the Titans this past, whenever that was, 2021,
2021. Yeah.
I just don't, it makes you wonder, man. Like, there's some moves that we see in the NFL that are like, okay, this makes sense. Right. There were a couple that were like, great, good moves. And then you look at one like this and you're like, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and you're just like, meh, yeah,
No,
I mean,
you make a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I just think that he went for the money. Instead, I wish he would just tell the
yeah,
truth. And I get it. You're a businessman. You have to do what's best for you. Like you said, you're focused on your income. I completely get it. Sports is sports, and you have to do what's best for you. But brother, you're at the back end of your career. You're you're right there, at the end of your career, and you got to go to the Titans out of all teams. I don't understand that. You've made so much money in your career. Now I get
yeah.
it, personal thing. He maybe wants to stay in the South. He went to Clemson, but the Chiefs and the Bills, I get it. It's money. I get it. I would have went to the Chiefs or the Bills to potentially win a ring. You have nothing to lose. Even if you go to the Chiefs or the Bills for a year and then some other lower team on the market pays you way more, you got your ring.
Yeah.
Now you're
Well,
fighting with the Titans to get in the playoffs.
well, that and I think when he talks about the franchise that's
Yeah.
stable in all aspects. Look, I don't care for this team that much, but Jacksonville has all of that now.
Yeah.
With Trevor Lawrence, you have your stable quarterback who actually he kind of got it together this past season. You have a stable front office. You have a stable core playmakers with Christian Kirk and those guys. That's a place maybe I would have kind of taken a look at if I was him. Just because of the success that they had, second half of the season under Doug Peterson. And, I mean, he turned that franchise around in a year. Do I think that, they win the AFC South? I think they got a good shot. But I think, it'll probably be down to Tennessee and them. I think Indy just is too inconsistent and Houston just isn't there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's going to be a 2-horse race between Tennessee and Jacksonville for the South. And, it should be fun to watch.
My last point about DeAndre Hopkins before we move on to the next part here is I personally think he spited the Patriots. Like I said, when we started talking about this, they lowballed him. He wasn't comfortable. And then the relationship between him and Bill O'Brien, and then a report came out that they were okay. I really think he went to the Titans to be with them because they gave him the most money, but also to spite the big brother, go to the little brother and Mike Vrabel, who's the cooler Belichick. He's more hip. Yeah. He's younger, very similar style of play. They're both very hard nosed. Vrabel's very in your face, kind of like Belichick. You learn from the best. To learn from the best, you got to be the best, So to be the man, you got to beat the man. But my point is I really think Hopkins went to the Titans to spite the Patriots. They gave him the money. He said, I'm going to go to the Titans. They're a very similar type team, but stable management. The Patriots have stable management. They've won freaking 6 Super Bowls this decade. What? It just doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it just doesn't add up. Like you said, the move doesn't make any sense. So I'm done talking about Hopkins. Have you watched the new Netflix show, Quarterback?
I have not, and I will be the first to admit that I do not have a Netflix account. So I mean, it's very hard as a sports reporter. It's very hard. It's very hard to binge stuff. Like
That's I just so funny.
I just can't get on some of the stuff. And I mean, there's periods throughout the year where I can like get a series in for something here or there, like Ted Lasso or some other series. But yeah, man, I mean, that's the one thing, it sucks about being a sports reporter is that it's hard to keep up on things because I have my other personal interests and things and all that. So I have not seen this series just yet.
I was really hoping you were going to you were watching it because I haven't seen it yet either. And people just keep talking about it. They're like Mariota and Cousins and Mahomes. And I mean, the poster boy, it's about the poster boy Mahomes and this and that. And I get it. Of course, it's cool. It's, it's so funny that Netflix Quarterback, they dropped it and then Hard Knocks, right? It's just perfect timing. It's like, let's spite them. It's like, we want to be better, but no, I really want to check it out. Might have to send you my login so you can watch it because you said you don't have an account, so I might have to send you the login.
I might need it for that Gators series that's coming out in August on Netflix.
With Urban Meyer. Yes. You might I might have to send you the login right after this episode. The 3 dots come up. You're like, why is he texting me? Because I'm sending you the Netflix login. So how about Jordan Addison though? I think it was arrested, but he was cited going 140 and a 55. Like, oh my gosh. My buddy texted me this earlier and I was driving myself insane. I was like, dude, you just had Henry Ruggs get into a similar situation. Now, I don't think Jordan Addison's situation is as extreme as this, but man, what are you doing?
You're going 90 over, man.
Kevin
Play
O'Connell must.
stupid games,
Oh,
play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like that's
Kev,
just what it comes down to.
it doesn't make
Like,
any sense. Kevin O'Connell must be driving himself insane. He's like, the Vikings are creating their own drama. Justin Jefferson, what, last week or 2 weeks ago, said Kirk Cousins wasn't a top 5 quarterback. That's a whole nother story. Then you have the Dalvin Cook stuff. Then you have Jordan Addison. It's like you're just adding fuel to the fire. You're just sitting there,
I mean,
hanging around the campfire, and you're throwing more fire into the logs that you don't need to throw in.
well, and the last thing management wants to deal with is a player who who has problems before he's even stepped foot on a field for a snap.
Right?
And like Jordan Addison, that's just going to be the unfortunate reality of it. And it's like, Kevin O'Connell's probably going, oh shit, we don't need this right now. You got Jefferson who, I'll agree with Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins is not a top 5 quarterback, but you don't go out there and say that.
No.
You don't throw your own quarterback under the bus. Whether that was intentional to light a fire under Kirk to put in the work this offseason, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you don't say that. But also, what are you doing going 140 and a 55? I can't comprehend how you get up to that speed. That's like you're basically going 140 down 41, Joey. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
I just don't understand what goes through the mind of NFL players these days. Henry Ruggs, I can understand his situation more, as much as tragic as it is, because he was intoxicated and he was messed up, and that stuff is bound to happen, if you're in those circumstances. But for a guy like Jordan Addison to be going even faster than Henry Ruggs, I think, it's beyond me. It really is at this point.
I hate to say this, but dumb people make dumb decisions. I don't know. I wouldn't say that, I shouldn't say that Jordan Addison's dumb, but that's a dumb decision. You're such a young player, and you have a platform now, and you just got drafted in the first round by the Vikings. You just finished a heck of a career at USC. You're very notable, and you're going to be a breakout wide receiver. Then you go and do that. It's just, and I get it. It kind of goes back to these kids are young. You're going to make dumb mistakes just like you and I, but man, he better learn from that. I mean, it's just such a dumb thing. It's like the Vikings GM, and O'Connell are probably just sitting there like, ugh, why? It's like I sent my friend the emoji earlier today. It's like,
well, yeah, it's like why, especially when the division can basically be theirs now if they want it to be. And now, if they cut them, you're basically, I think you're giving the division to Detroit at that point. Detroit's got it together, and they don't have any of those problems with players doing stupid shit. And Minnesota, they kind of burned the bridge with Dalvin Cook, and Justin Jefferson seems to be on he seems to have pretty short patience. I think we saw that a couple times last year. But to be the right-hand man to arguably the best receiver in the league right now, and to put yourself in that position, especially as a rookie, he's got ground to make up now, and he's got, relationships to repair. The first day he walks it back in that locker room, it's going to be awkward. And he's got work to do at 22, 23 years old.
That Tupac song, All Eyes on Me. So
right.
let's move on to the NBA, and then we got the MLB. We have 5 questions to wrap up the show. But the NBA Summer League just wrapped. It feels like the NBA is always a 24-hour news cycle with the NBA's drama with this player and that player, and Wemby's a bust, and the Lakers doing this, and the Nuggets doing that, and the Warriors signing or trading for Chris Paul, and then the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole drama with his dad. It's like, you knew as soon as that punch happened, you knew it was just going to be a downhill slope from there. It was just going to be all in, right? And now you get Jordan Poole's dad coming at Draymond Green, and Draymond Green saying this. It's like, it feels like it's its own reality show. I've tweeted that in the past. It's like its own reality show. So I want to talk to you about the Damian Lillard rumors. I'm frustrated with this Damian Lillard stuff at this point. I remember a few weeks ago they leaked from his camp that he only wants to play for the Heat, and then Damian Lillard was on live playing the Miami song by Will Smith, and then Jimmy Butler recently just did the Dame time celebration while he's over. I think he's in China. It's like it's getting petty at this point, guys. Like, let's just trade for Damian Lillard. Like Portland, the offer's there. You know what Miami wants. Dame wants to go to Miami. Just grant the guy his wish. It's driving me crazy at this point. It's like it's irking me. It's like, let's just get it over with, guys. We're anxious. We're waiting. It's like you're waiting for the new iPhone to drop. You're waiting. You know it's coming. We're waiting for it. Like, here we go, guys. What day is it coming out? Like, when is the new PS6 coming out? Like, what's going on here? Like, Lillard wants to go to the Heat. Like, come on, you know? So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Miami's kind of been in the lead for a while. It's just a matter of if, Pat Riley and all them want to give up what Portland wants. I think you're looking at a guy like Tyler Hero. You're looking at Jovic. You're probably looking at a guy like Kyle Lowry.
Duncan Robinson, 4 first-round picks
going to
they
the
want.
I mean, you're basically emptying out your entire bench here, minus a guy like Lowry and whatnot, and there's picks on top of this. So you're probably looking at 3 picks, 3 first rounds, unconditionals. I just don't know if Miami wants to do that. As lethal as a starting 5 would be with Lillard, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, Bam, etc. I don't know if the Heat want to do that, because let's face it, I liked a lot of their guys in their bench minutes this past year. I liked a lot of the guys coming off the bench. I liked a guy like Duncan Robinson. I liked a guy like Max Strus, who is now with Cleveland. I think that they got a lot of help from their bench. And, I think you're kind of looking at a similar situation with Phoenix, where, Phoenix's starting 5 is going to be freaking great. Like, there's no doubt about that. But when that starting 5 can't play 45 or 48 minutes, you can get beat pretty quickly in those minutes when those guys are off the floor. But as much as, Dame is a game-changing player, I think we've seen that on multiple instances. I think if anyone were to disagree with that, they're probably alone by themselves. But, I think it's just coming down to what Miami wants to give, and they're just kind of working just to give Portland the bare minimum, to just get Dame, because I think Hero's going to have to go. Lowry's gone. Jovic is gone. So there's a young guy. You got youth there in Hero and Jovic that are gone. Like, that's literally some of the future of your franchise. And then you got the picks on top of that. Like, if they can keep Duncan Robinson, and I have a feeling that if Pat Riley pulls this off, that he will be able to keep, Dunk, then you got a pretty strong starting 5. But after that, it's, guys like Haywood Highsmith and Cody Zeller and Richardson, who's back.
Richardson,
Kevin Love. Like, I just liked Miami. Miami's rotation last year, but they weren't good enough to beat Denver. And
no, that's the thing.
I think that's their goal now, is to get a starting 5 that's capable. Even though Gabe Vincent, I thought, had a great series for the most part. He had great playoffs. Same thing with Caleb Martin up until the finals. I saw him in Game 7 in Boston. I was like, holy shit. The guy couldn't miss. And, I just liked a lot of what they had to offer this past season. And, Dame will offset what what they're trading for. But, I just, who knows, man? Maybe Boston jumps in the mix. Maybe Boston goes and gets Dame. Who knows? I mean, we'll see. But I think, he's pretty much circled in on South Beach.
Jaylen Brown would have to be included in that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think Boston has the assets like Miami has, and Portland came out and said that they want 4 first-round picks. I think that's what it's going to take. And if Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat and Pat Riley and Mickey Arison want to make the move, and they want to continue to keep themselves on the map, and Miami's going to be relevant as long as Spo is there and Jimmy Butler, of course. Jimmy Butler even came out and said, he said, we will be winning a championship next year. And I love the motivation, but let's be realistic here. You get Lillard, you're in the conversation. But right now, I don't know about that. So let's talk about
Jimmy said a lot of
yeah.
things in the playoffs that didn't come true.
Jimmy's got that Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality mindset where nobody's gonna push him down. I love it, but I mean sometimes
Yeah.
you have to be a little more realistic. But anyways, James Harden, I'm so done with this guy. It's been driving me absolutely insane. He's another guy too. It's like another request trade out. It's like this guy it's like how many times you're going to leave your job? How many times you're going to quit? It's like I thought Daryl Morey was his friend for the Rockets and now he's with the Sixers and now he wants out. It's like I don't think Harden realizes like how I guess he looks out for himself, but I don't think he realizes the other people around him that he affects. I mean, he's got the MVP on his team and Joel Embiid. It's like, let's go the Clippers. And what are you going to do with the Clippers with Kawhi, who load manages? Paul George can't stay healthy. The Clippers don't want to give him an extension. It's like, what are we doing here? The Knicks, are they going to, take James Harden? It's like James Harden's declining as we see.
Yeah.
I really don't see, James Harden. I don't understand it.
Well, bigger picture. I mean, you kind of touched on it by mentioning the teams, but why in the world would you want to go to the West right now?
Right.
Like, why do you want to go to the West? You got the Lakers, who seem to have put something together that's strong. I mean,
yep.
The Grizzlies, I don't know what to make of them. With Ja kind of going through his thing and Dylan Brooks going to Houston. You got Denver, who seems to be pretty much on the fast track to repeat with the amount of talent they have coming back. And then you got Golden State and Sacramento. I mean, the West is loaded, and I just don't understand why you'd want to go join that competition if you want to win the championship. I think if James Harden wants to get to a finals, I think it's in the East. I don't think it's in the West. Or, he wanted to go to Houston. Yeah, you got young guys there, but Houston's nowhere near being a title contender. I think Philly, if you can get past Boston and get past Miami, maybe Milwaukee, I think you're in a position where you can get to a finals. But
Yeah.
well, I mean, I didn't even mention Luka and Kyrie and Dallas. Like, that's just how loaded the West is.
Right.
But James Harden, I don't know what to make of it. Tyrese Maxey's a good, solid number 2 there. I think James Harden, just enjoy the time in Philly, man, because that's going to be your best chance to win a ring. I think they were close this past year. They get one more key player. I think they're in a decent shape. But James Harden wants out. I think we can write off Philly for the next couple of years.
No, I agree with that. And the thing is I think Philly's trying to really build around Tyrese Maxey. They really like him a lot. They said that he's not going to be included in any trade packages. I know they were linked to Lillard, but it's just like Harden. If Harden gets traded, like you said, Philly won't be relevant, of course. And then Embiid's going to want out, and they might just go downhill. How the Eagles fans were going crazy in the streets. Yeah. It might be like that for Philly, for the Sixers, when James Harden leaves. They might be greasing poles and burning the streets down if he leaves. So, but I wanted to talk about Wemby real quick before we wrap up this NBA talk here. I think Wemby's going to be just fine. I said this last week in a clip. So many guys were freaking out, and I was like, "Pump the brakes! It's one summer league game, guys. Like, he played one summer league game, and it's like guys here, like let's hold up. Wemby's going to be just fine. Even if he doesn't have an amazing rookie year this year, he's going to be a great rim protector. He's going to be able to provide defense for you. I don't know if he's going to be the Kevin Durant guy we're looking for right away, or the one-legged threes at the exact moment, but he's in a great position with Popovich. He's in a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it gets any better for a rookie like that to go to a team like the Spurs, who have known to have, great success with player development and helping players grow. I mean, Tony Parker, Duncan Robinson, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, like Wemby's in a great position.
Yeah. And the one thing I didn't even realize that he's in the West too now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have the future of the NBA in the West. You have Scoot Henderson, who's also in the West. Wemby is going to be fine. Like, I don't understand why people are freaking out after one summer league game. You have to understand the amount of media that was around him over the last 6 months, talking about the NBA. That does something to you.
Yes.
And he, as much as, you probably don't think professional athletes get it, their heart is racing just like ours were when we were kids in high school, when we're playing a high school game or something like that.
Yep.
Like he was probably going through the same exact thing. And Wemby is going to be fine. Like, I'm not concerned at all. He's getting used to American basketball. You know who else, is from Europe that, succeeded and they're doing just fine here?
Nikola
Nikola
Jokic.
Jokic, Luka Doncic.
Yep.
Nikola Jokic should be a 3-time MVP. Luka Doncic is 23, 24, soon to be a face of the NBA. You got Giannis from Greece. It's starting to become an international game. I don't understand why people are very concerned about Wemby at all. I'm not worried at all. I think he's going to be an easy double-double. He's going to be a walking double-double in his first year. And, if he wants to be like Nikola Jokic and create, I can see him being a triple-double type guy. But, I think he's guaranteed for, 18, 20 and 10, 20 and 12 his first year in the league. I think
call me crazy
just
though.
with his height.
Yeah. Call me crazy
height,
though.
Man. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, call me crazy, but I don't think Wemby's going to win Rookie of the Year. I really don't. The reason why, because I don't think the Spurs are going to tax him and they're going to put all their eggs into him, because I just don't think Popovich is going to do that. I think he's really going to want to develop him. I really think Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller is going to win Rookie of the Year because they're going to be way more flashy. They're going to show up way more on the stat sheet. I think Wemby's going to have some of those tough games, and Popovich is going to be sitting there and molding him and developing him and showing him the ropes, showing him the ways, how international basketball is different than the NBA. I think Brandon Miller is going to go out there and drop probably 15 to 18 on night. Scoot's going to have flashy highlights and dunks and crazy plays, and Wemby's not going to have that. You may see a one-legged three every once in a while, or Wemby takes somebody off the block, or Wemby posts somebody up and he gets something crazy or hits it. But I really just don't see Wemby winning Rookie of the Year. I really don't, mainly just because I think Pop is going to sit there with him and try to develop him. And I don't think it's going to be as flashy as people think. And people are going, Wemby's going to win this. It's like, I think he's going to be developed first. I really think Scoot and Brandon Miller are going to be the two guys that are going to be in the race for Rookie of the Year. And then Chet Holmgren too is another guy who hasn't even played yet. So
yeah,
Rookie of the Year might be a little bit tighter than we think of just giving it to Wemby. It's like Wemby's not a lock to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think Vegas was somewhat generous. I think he's at negative odds. I think by a pretty healthy margin. It is interesting because as much as I think that's something Popovich would do, to my knowledge, the NBA awards are decided by the writers, and there's so many writers that fantasize, or they're probably thinking like Wemby. They get to see Wemby for the first time this year in person, and
Right.
eye test is everything. An NBA writer isn't going to see every single minute of every single game that he plays.
No.
But at the end of the day, he's going to be. I feel like he'd probably be a part of every talk show or every afternoon ESPN show. I think Malika Andrews will name drop him once a day. I just think he has that media coverage around him that that comes with pressure too. Like Wemby is probably going to feel pressure once the first game is here in a couple months. But yeah, I could see him not winning it. My first look would be right to Scoot Henderson. I think especially if Dame's on and he's putting up 20 a game. I think it's a foregone conclusion. But it's just all about how quickly he adapts to the game. Like a guy like Scoot Henderson, prototypical guard, shifty, quick, can push you in transition like De'Aaron Fox.
Can't shoot very well.
He can have an easier transition. Wemby is obviously one of a kind, and we've never seen something like him, which can make things very interesting. When that first game comes, and maybe a fair evaluation point could be Christmas. Maybe early January to kind of see where we're at. Because at that point, I think we'll know whether or not he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Most definitely. So to wrap up the show, I wanted to talk about the MLB really quickly here. Shohei Ohtani. what's going on here, guys? The Angels going to trade him? Is he going to stay? Like I said, I really think the Angels need to trade Shohei Ohtani, try to get some value before you lose him this offseason because you're not going to be able to afford him. You got the Dodgers on the phone, you got the Yankees on the phone, the Mets owner and Steve Cohen, who has come out and said he will do anything to get Shohei Ohtani. And now the Rays are in the mix for a trade of him. I don't see that. I don't think the Rays would do that. He would just be a rental, and I don't see the Rays giving up their prospects. They're very stingy. They're very frugal with their prospects because they don't like to pay a lot of people, and they don't have a very big payroll. So, and then I also saw the Yankees trading for Ohtani. Don't even get me started about the Yankees. I'm pretty upset about them with the whole Judge thing, and he's not back yet. And Donaldson, they're still paying him, and Rodon is blowing kisses to fans. And then Tommy Kahnle yesterday is beating up a fan, not an actual fan, but a moving fan in the dugout. But it's like it's so frustrating at this point with this Ohtani stuff. It's like, what do you think? Are they going to trade him? Are they not? Like, I really think they should.
Well, they have to at this point with Trout out for 6 months, and they're kind of on track to go into the cellar, in front of the A's. You have to trade him and get what you can now, because we all know that Shohei Ohtani is not re-signing with Los Angeles, at least the Angels.
Right.
Might go to the Dodgers, but at the end of the day, the Angels have a non-zero chance of getting him. Like there's no shot here for him to re-sign as an Angel. He's gone. They just can't afford to pay him because I mean, personally, I think he gets a $600 million contract. I think that's how much he's going to get. He's going to get money. He's going to get 600 mil. I could see the Rays, the Rays have the prospects to do it, obviously. And would they be willing to empty their farm? I don't know. It's just so tough because the Rays are kind of on their own skid right now. They've officially moved into second place. The Mets are just kind of in no man's land in the middle of the NL East. The Yankees, they'd be first place in the AL Central. They're nowhere contention. So it's kind of you're limited here. And I just don't. I mean, as much as the Angels probably want to trade Shohei Ohtani, I just don't know if there's a place for him, that they'd be content with. But yet again, the Angels don't care where these other teams are, if they're in positions to buy or sell or any sort of thing. At the end of the day, you need a return because the Angels have no shot at this point of getting to the playoffs, winning a World Series, or even, heck, winning a playoff series. So I think at this point, you just need to get a return that is good enough to where you don't set the tone for future markets like him. Because, guy at UF, he's definitely maybe a few years out of a few years away from being pro. Jack Caglione, similar guy, can pitch and can hit. Imagine Shohei getting traded for 4 or 5 prospects. I mean, that sets the tone for Caglione to get 2 or 3. And, I think the Mets have a fair amount to offer. The Yankees, I mean, if I'm the Angels, I don't want to touch what the Yankees have in their farm system because Jason Dominguez was this hyped up prospect who's barely hitting 200.
Yeah, sadly.
And that's their number 1 prospect, mind you. I wouldn't want to touch that farm system. The Rays have a consistently good farm system that I would be open to looking at, but it just doesn't feel like the Rays would be the team to do it. The team that is interesting, and I could never see them doing this, but I had Shohei slotted in to go to this team last year. Texas Rangers.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I knew it.
They could never trade him to a division rival like that. But could I see him signing in Texas in the offseason after they paid Marcus Semien, paid Jacob deGrom, paid Corey Seager? Yeah, I could see it 100%. I could see him going to the Rangers. Will they pay him? I don't know. But just picture what the Rangers could be next year with a healthy Shohei Ohtani, a healthy Jacob deGrom, a healthy Kumar Rocker. I mean, Jack Leiter, if he gets it together in the farm system, that rotation and Nate Eovaldi, who has actually had a great season since leaving the Red Sox. Um, just imagine that rotation and imagine what the Rangers could become with Shohei Ohtani. They're already going to be a 90-plus win team this year. Just imagine what they are with them next year.
Jonah Heim, Josh Jung, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, like you said, they're unreal right now.
It's a good core, man. It
No, it
really
really
is.
is. It really is. And I think my last point about Ohtani here is because I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. I feel like we all want him to get traded. Yankees fans are holding their breath. But if I'm the Yankees, I wouldn't even make the trade for Ohtani at this point. I would really just try to hardball it and try to sign him in this offseason. You have the money for him.
Yeah.
You pair him next to Judge. And some people say, well, they trade for him, that you put him next to Cole, Rodon, Judge comes back. You have a really legitimate chance to win the World Series. But I just think there's too much going wrong with the Yankees right now for them to make that type of trade. And you could potentially get him this offseason for just paying for him. You have so much money. Maybe if the Yankees were like, if they were like legitimate in the AL East, if they weren't slipping, and I know Judge has been hurt and guys have been in and out of the lineup. I mean, but the point is the Yankees are one of the worst batting average teams in the MLB. So it's like, and Boone's on the hot seat, which he needs to go. Cashman needs to go. We're not going to go down a Yankees rabbit hole rant, but I don't think they should trade for Ohtani.
It would be the Yankees thing to do by paying for him. They wouldn't trade for him and then not end up not signing him. Like the Yankee thing to do is to sign him in the offseason and get him locked in for the rest of his career. I just don't see the Yankees trading for him at the deadline. You look at a team like the Dodgers, maybe. I really don't know what teams are truly in and truly out on his market, because it's really a tough read right now, because there's teams, that you'll probably agree with this, that, coming into this year, we didn't expect them to be winning, and they're winning. Right. Example, Arizona Diamondbacks, Baltimore Orioles, first of the division.
Orioles,
It's crazy to think. I mean, the Orioles could be a dark horse because they do have a deep farm system, with the amount of prospects they have. But I mean, for long term, I'd probably want to keep that group together more than anything.
It's a good point.
I just don't know where he goes, if he goes. I mean, this could just be all hyped up and he stays an Angel and all that. But, it seemed like he, watching the Yankees series earlier this week, I mean, he was pretty adamant that, like,
he turns it up
and all that stuff that, I mean, I don't know if that's in his best interest.
The Yankees are the Yankees. They can pull anything off, really. They're like the Lakers, like the Cowboys. They're a brand. They're not just a team. Everybody knows who the Yankees are, just like the Dodgers. The Yankees are the mecca of baseball, and it's never going to change just for, all the history they've had in the past. But if they really want to make a splash, they would do it. In the past, they really haven't cared about prospects. But imagine that lineup with Ohtani and Judge comes back to trade for Ohtani, and you could potentially keep him in the offseason. You traded him. You got that out of the way. I don't know. My hands are up in the air on this one here. I don't think the Dodgers have the prospects to trade for Ohtani. I'm not the biggest Dodgers fan, even though I live in LA. I just don't think the Dodgers have enough to give for him. I think a team like you said that would, prospect-wise, would make the most sense, because the Angels want 4 top 100 prospects, would be the Rays, and then the Rangers potentially. But I don't know. The Angels said they're taking calls, so we'll see.
But before we go on to the next segment, yes or no, is Shohei Ohtani an Angel after the deadline?
Oh, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say they stand put on him. They milk it as long as they can. They milk all these ticket sales, and they really try to play hardball this offseason and see if they can re-sign him and try to pitch him. Well, we have Trout. We really like you. We've been your guy. We've been loyal. So I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say I'm going on record that Shohei Ohtani will be a Los Angeles Angel post deadline.
It's tough, man. I think I mean, the Angels, I feel like would be silly not to trade him,
right? Just
because of where they're at in the teams that are out there that can provide a good return. But it's just weird picturing him getting traded at the deadline. Like he's the guy in baseball right now. He's going to be your AL MVP if he stays in the American League.
Right.
He's got a good shot at Cy Young. It would just be very odd to see, a guy of that stature go at the deadline, but that's just where the Angels are at right now. And gun to my head, on this, like, is he going to be an Angel or not? I'm probably going to say probably yes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think the Angels, as much as they'd appreciate a return, I just don't know if they're going to get what they want for him.
Right. I think they're gonna play the game. I think they're gonna roll the dice in the offseason and see. They said they're taking calls, so remains to be seen. Yeah. If we get off this podcast and Ohtani's traded, I'm gonna lose my mind. But it's August 6th is the deadline.
They push it back this year. I think it might be.
Is it August? It's something around there. I don't know the exact date, but the point is I think he stays put. So to end the show, as always, we do 5 questions for our guests. We talked about the NBA, we talked about the NFL, we talked to the MLB. The main storyline of the MLB right now is Ohtani. I think everybody is scrolling on their phones, going on social media and Twitter. Stay off Twitter, kids. No, but I really think everyone's scrolling and seeing what is the Angels are gonna do with Ohtani. So, but 5 questions to end this show. We always do this. So, what is your hottest take?
It's more of a recent thing, but in all sports, kill divisions.
Wow.
Just get rid of them. They're basically pointless now, and I think the AL East is proving that.
Yeah.
As much as you hate the Yankees, like it just bothers the crap out of me that
I love the Yankees
are in the cellar.
Yeah.
Oh, the Yankees are in the cellar, but they'd be first place in the Central. Like Sadly. That just like look, the Twins spring train here and everything, but
yeah.
The Twins are flirting at 500 right now, guys.
Yep.
You got the Yankees who are doing better, and it'd be very odd to see that play out. And I think it goes for all sports too. Like, just kill divisions, man. Like, just make them conference or NFL 2 conferences, no divisions.
Yep.
Basketball, thankfully they don't do that. It's straight up conferences. So I like what the NBA does. So that's not a concern, and I think they're making it more interesting. Hockey's its own animal. And,
don't get me started about hockey. I get sad about hockey.
But baseball's the biggest one, man. Like it's just it bothers the crap out of me to see a deserving team that's winning games, but they're last in their division, and they're probably frustrated. And they have a right to be, because if they don't get in, and the Twins do, sitting at 86 and 76 or 80, 85 and 77. That'd just be borderline silly.
Alex, don't let me go down a Yankees rabbit hole. You're really getting to me now. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't. I'm so tired of the Yankees. They're just irking me, man. I have hope every single year, and nothing ever transpires. We pay this guy, you pay that guy, nothing ever happens. So let's not go down a Yankees rabbit hole. I still love you. It's okay. Number 2, if you could travel to anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I've had multiple places, but I've never been influenced really by a TV series. But after seeing The White Lotus season 2, Sicily just looks gorgeous. And it just, I've seen some places, and there's places I want to go that are on my bucket list and whatnot. Sydney, London. I've never been to Europe, by the way, so it'd be kind of a refreshing experience. But after seeing The White Lotus, I've always had this thing for Sicily, and just the way that they pictured it, and the way that it was captured on camera, and all those sorts of things. It just made me go like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. So I'd probably say Sicily and the rest of Italy.
I like that one. Well, hey, place your future bet on whatever sport you think, whether it's NBA, NFL, NHL. Place that future plus 100,000, plus 20,000. You could take me to Sicily. Oh, that was a good one.
Hey, I hope I'd be tired if that bet hits.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. But hey, save a little bit for your boy here. A little Ohtani trade. Judge wins
Yeah.
MVP next year. Lakers win the championship. Something, crazy happens in sports. Gators win the NCAA champion. Nah, it's not going to happen. But no, anyways, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food. I mean, there's a meal that comes to mind that just hits every time I eat it. But I mean, it's probably gonna be steak. On a more broader note, steak is just, it's just our thing, and
Yeah.
I just love steak. But specifically, going to Daruma, you have the steak with the yum yum sauce. It just hits
Ooh.
different, and
Ooh.
it's so good, man. It
Oh
just
yeah.
having that sauce it's awesome. And if that's it's one of those questions where it's like, you have to eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? I mean, that's it. It's the cut up steak with the yum yum sauce, and I could eat that every day, man. Like, it's
not
just
not the
really good.
healthiest of choices, but it is
Oh
very
yeah,
good. Not the healthiest of choices. A lot of fats in there, but hey, you got to get your protein. So, number 4, if you could interview anyone in the world, who would it be?
that's one I've thought a lot about. And when I think about this question, before COVID, I would have told you Jordan.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
Before COVID, I would have said Jordan, but we've seen his
Yeah.
extensive interviews now with The Last Dance. The guy who hasn't done that stuff yet, well, there's two guys that come to mind that haven't done that stuff in our modern day.
Mhm.
TB12, Jeter.
Okay.
Um, it would probably be down to those two, and just because of the greatness, we have yet to really kind of see behind the curtain look at TB12 and what he's been able to do, and what happened behind the scenes in some areas, especially earlier on in his career. I just think his story is fascinating because Jeter was a very well regarded prospect, very well
Yeah.
regarded player in high school and all that stuff. I mean, Tom Brady's a 5th round pick or 6th round pick, whatever he was, 7th round, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And his story is just really interesting that, like, we don't get to hear much about his college days because of what happened after that.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a peek behind the curtain at the Tom Brady in high school, college, and the early years in the NFL, just like we kind of did Jordan a little bit, in the early 80s when he got drafted. And, I think, the Bulls were an 8 seed, under 500. They were playing Larry Bird Celtics, and MJ dropped like 50 something one game. And,
Yeah. 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 The
it
rookie.
kind
It
of
was a
was
rookie game. Yeah. Rookie year.
yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of was a prelude to, very similar structure in terms of what Brady did, winning as many rings as he did, and Jordan winning 6. Um, so I'd probably want to say Tom Brady just because of the player that he is, and just the amount of knowledge he has on and off the field. Especially because there's stories that we'll get to hear for the first time in a documentary, just like Jordan, on multiple occasions. I don't think the pizza thing in Utah really came to light until they talked about it directly. I think there were rumors and just kind
Yeah.
of various accounts flying around, but we heard it like straight from the guy. Like, that's what happened. It was 2 a.m. Like, those stories with a lot of color is what I would hope to hear from Tom Brady. And, color stories are just really fascinating, especially for me as a journalist.
Most definitely. And I don't mean to correct you, but we did have the Man in the Arena with Tom Brady, the 10 episodes. But I do understand your point because we haven't seen his high school.
Yeah.
We didn't really see his college. We saw a glimpse into his NFL career. It still wasn't a ton, but I do understand where you're coming from. It was like the 10 episode thing about his man in
Yeah.
the arena and stuff, like some of his teammates. Like, it was nice to hear, but I feel like it wasn't enough. I feel like there's so much Brady
Yeah.
stuff to unpack. We haven't really gotten a lot of media appearances in Brady minus his time in the NFL, Super Bowl
Exactly.
appearances. Tom versus Time was very brief on Facebook there. So we saw a glimpse into it, but man, it would be awesome to see more. And I think if he does take the Fox deal, because I guess it's on the table right now, they offered him 300 million for 10 years. We may see something in the aspect of a Brady documentary along the lines, maybe with Fox, maybe with HBO, who knows? So, but yeah, I really
Yeah.
do like that answer.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
yeah.
it would be like, maybe, I mean, 10 years down the road, maybe Mahomes, because
Yeah,
we haven't had that yet, but, just being able to get that insight would be very interesting. And,
most
I mean,
definitely.
I want to know more about what Tom Brady did in the early 2000s and in college at Michigan and what kind of that was like for him.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh boy. That's a great question. I mean, I don't know. Like with the way sports journalism is heading, I genuinely do not know. I don't know what it looks like in 5 years. I don't know if my position will be filled by AI. Like, I just don't know. There's a lot of things that can go on in 5 years that, I mean, we have no idea. Like, we've
Yeah,
seen AI kind of just came out of nowhere and really um, came on the scene over the last 2-ish years after COVID. Kind of early 2022, you heard things about AI, and this past year, you hear about kids using Chat GPT to cheat on tests and all that.
crazy.
I mean, I don't know where the world's going to be in 5 years at this point. I mean, let alone myself.
Could be upside
You
down.
know, but personally, like, I hope to be in a stable situation,
Yeah, for
hope to
sure.
be in a relationship at that point, you know, maybe borderline being able to marry somebody.
Yeah,
I don't know if kids are on the table. I don't know if I want my kids to see, the future post, you know, see what Earth is like after I'm gone. But,
yeah,
I just hope to be in a stable situation, from a general answer, with a good career, with a good wife, those sorts of things.
yeah,
But
most definitely.
I can't be really like looking at that. When
Right,
it
right, right.
happens, it happens, and
Of course.
but ideally, that'd be the situation I'd like to be in. But
Most definitely.
will I? I don't know. So.
Yeah, you never know what's in front of you, and you just got to plan one day at a time. I know so many people try to, plan for the future and plan for this and plan for that. Like, yeah, you can look into it. You can maybe with a slight glimpse or, with one eye open, but you never know what tomorrow brings. So, as always, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. We're so sorry we were on a little short hiatus there. Sometimes it's not easier. It's not that easy to get guests when you're so busy throughout the day. And some people say yes, some people say no. It just really just depends on the day. But Alex came in clutch. He was an emergency pack for us. It was a great episode with him. We got a chance to talk about his career as a sports reporter, a glimpse into the Southwest Florida lifestyle of being a sports reporter. We talked about the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and just a little, positivity note of life, Alex's story, and, how he deals with being a sports reporter in his daily life. We really appreciate this, guys. As always, make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast, TikTok, the Inquisitive Mamba Pod, YouTube, the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast, Apple Podcasts, the Inquisitive Mamba, Spotify, the Inquisitive Mamba. We just hit over 1,100 plays. We're just nearing the goal of 200,000 views all time with YouTube Shorts. Alex, it was a pleasure to have you on tonight's show. We really do appreciate it. You guys don't know how much, this really means to me to get to record week in and week out for you guys. I do my very best. And Alex, it was a pleasure to have you on. Make sure to plug your stuff, Alex, before we do wrap up, so people can follow you, know who you are, and follow you for all the sports news in Southwest Florida.
Of course, Twitter is MP_Alex Martin. Instagram is Alex Martin XIII. That's Roman numerals. So they're basically 13 in Roman numerals. But yeah, man, Joey, it's been a pleasure being on, and lots of ground covered tonight, and looking forward to listening to this when it drops.
Most definitely. As always, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for next week's guest. I'm very excited for next week's guest. I can't announce it yet, but I'm very excited for that one. It's a very, very big guest of mine. Might be my biggest one yet. So we'll see you guys next time.